Today, Daf Lamed Aleph, and we're up to about 5 lines from the top of the page. Kum Lena Blak Moritz, Mitzvah Shabbos, Chodesh, Pashas Para, Pashas Tzaf. So basically, we were learning the signs of how to tell whether something is an Aveda, lost item, or something is not a lost item. So we said it depends. You found it in the main street, and you found a bull running in the vineyards. And then the last thing we learned was that if you saw Aveda doesn't only mean to return a lost item. If you see that there's about to be a flood or the river's about to breach its banks, and you can save the property of the person, of somebody's property, then you have an obligation to try to save it. Maybe build a makeshift fence or something. That's part of Hashavas Aveda. Amar Rava says Rava. It says in Pasuk the same thing you should do to the donkey and to his garment, and you should do this to all of the lost items of your brother. L'rabas avedas karka, says Rava, that it doesn't only mean something which is mobile, portable. Even if you can save someone's property, that falls under Hashavas Aveda. In fact, we had Bava Kama that that a person taking care of their physical health and body is also like Hashavas Aveda. So Hashavas Aveda is not limited only to returning an object. I'll bring a proof. We just learned. And you saw the water is about to threaten this property. You should make a makeshift fence to protect the property. Clearly, what are you protecting? Land. So we see the mitzvah Hashavas Aveda is also to protect land. Omalei, so he said to him that Rava himself said, I'll be honest with you, it's not, even though I think that the Hashavas Aveda applies it, but your Brisa doesn't in any way, doesn't necessarily support it. And why is that? Even Shemala you can't bring a proof. What we're talking about here? There was also bundles of wheat there tied together, and that's what you're protecting. Who said you're protecting the land? Says the Gemara, if there was bundles that you can save, then what do you have to tell me for? Of course, that's a mitzvah Hashavas Aveda. Says the Gemara, no, we needed the izba oimrin, the tzricha la'ara. We have there, wheat, stalks of wheat still standing, still attached to the ground, but they're just dry, like the ritual says, they're just becoming dry. And therefore, they're coming to the last stage. So Ma'otem, I would have thought, really, you don't protect land. The question is, how do we view these stalks? Are they considered land? You don't have to protect it, or because they're in the last stage, they're almost ready to be harvested. Therefore, it is considered as if it's already separated, and you have a mitzvah Hashavas Aveda. And that's a chiddush. We would have thought, it's like the land, Kamashlan, is considered separate. But land itself, maybe you don't have to protect. So the Brisa doesn't prove one way or another, but I still believe, says Rabbi, I maintain that you have a mitzvah Hashavas Aveda to protect someone's property. Says the Gemara, it says in the Mishnah as follows. The Mishnah says, if you see, there's two parts of this Mishnah, and they seem to contradict each other. The Mishnah that you saw a donkey or a cow wandering down the road or grazing on the road, then don't assume it's a lost object, because the owner might know that it's there. You're just letting it wander about. If you see, that's one thing. So if you want to infer from here, what happens if it's running on the road? Then maybe it is Aveda, and you have to take it and find the owner. Then it says, that's the first part of the mission. Then it says, you found a donkey and the kelim are turned upside down, or you found a cow running through a vineyard. That's a lost item, because, you're destroying the vineyard, the animal's getting all cut up and everything. Must be the owner's not aware that the animal is there. So he inferred from that, but if the animal was running on the main road, on the thoroughfare, then it wouldn't be a problem of Aveda. So which one is it? That's the most question. So the Hagu is a contradiction. Amrit, you say you found a donkey and a cow wandering the road. Ainzu Aveda, it's not considered lost. So we infer only if it's wandering the road, it's not considered lost. If it's running through the road, then it would be considered lost, because it's not normal. And the same thing is. And what happens, I would also infer, what happens if it's wandering about, but not on the main road, but rather through the vineyards? It's considered a lost object. It's considered a lost object, you have to find the owner. Now let's go to the Sefer. The next line, it said, only if you found a donkey and it's upside down, you saw a cow running through the vineyards, as if to say, but the cow was just walking about, or the cow was running on the main road, it's not an Aveda, Contradiction. Only if it's running through the vineyard is Aveda. Oh, what about what do you call it? But if it's running on the road or it's wandering about grazing amongst the vines, it's not Aveda. So which one is it? Now we have this a number of times where one part of the Mishnah we infer one way, and from the next part we infer exactly the opposite. So which is the primary and which is not? Amar Abai says something novel. Yagid olav reyai. That the Mishnah is a bit cryptic, and what the Mishnah left out, let's look for a similar example and say the same law applies there. So, for example, it talks about roya, wandering about. You say it's not a lost item, even though the Mishnah gives an example of wandering about or grazing on the main street. We'll say the same thing applies if you're grazing in the vineyard. The Mishnah says if you're rushing, if the animal's running through the vineyard, it's lost. Let's take this activity of running and say if it's running in the main road, the same thing, it's lost. Yagid olav reyai. Tana roya, but then the Tana says running, grazing on the road, the lahave is not lost. But who hadin l'roy ben akram? The same thing applies if it's wandering about amongst the vines. Tana, the other part of the Mishnah which says rotza ben akramim, running through the vineyard, aveda. Who hadin l'rotza ben, the same thing applies if it's running on the main road. Amalei Rava says it doesn't make sense. If the Mishnah is only going to give us one example of running, let's say, shouldn't the Mishnah have given to us the greater chiddush? What's a greater chiddush that is not considered a lost object? If it's running on the main road, or what's a chiddush when you say that it is considered an aveda? If it's running through a vineyard, or even if it's running through a main road. If you tell me that the animal is running on the main road, it's considered lost. Surely, if it's running through the vineyard, it's lost. So just the Mishnah should have used an example of running not through the vineyard, but on the main road. And the same thing applies to what you tell me if it's grazing, everything is all right. So tell me a bigger chiddush, that even if it's grazing amongst vines, it's not considered a lost object. So surely if it's grazing on the main road, it's not a lost object. So what's Pshat in the Mishnah? At least they killed the Chosh Chametz. Tell us what's the one that's easier to understand, and surely we understand the one that's harder. What do you mean by that? Or the one that's more stringent? At least, for example, let the Mishnah say Rotza Baderech, running through the road. You tell me running is always considered a lost object. Talk to me about a road. Have a veid. And v'choshka, no, surely Rotza bein hakrami, running between the vines. The listener Roya bein hakrami lahaved. Tell me if it's wandering about the vineyard, it's not lahaved. The choshka Roya Baderech, if it's wandering in the road. Elamarava. Rotza lotza lakasha. Sometimes running on the main road is considered an aveda, lost, and sometimes it is. Depends which direction the animal is running. Hodap, like I was running away from the city into out in the wilderness, then it's lost. Hodap, like I was running toward the city, then it's not lost. Same thing as roya, grazing, nami lakasha. We focus on the animal itself. What's the problem with the animal going through the vineyard? That it gets all scratched up and cut up. But if the animal is going slowly and just grazing about, it won't get cut up. So if you focus on the animal, it's not a lost object. The owner might be aware that the animal is there. But if you focus on the vines, the fact is if the animal is there, it'll destroy the vines. So therefore it's considered an aveda. So that's what it says, that the animal wandering about in the vineyards. And aveda is talking about when we focus on the vineyards. And the obvious question is, so every time that the animal is wandering about the vineyard, who cares if you're focusing on the animal and you tell me everything's all right, but at the same time it's damaging the property. So it's not all right. It must be an aveda. The owner is not aware of the animal, not aware that the animal is there. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. So first thing I want to explain. First thing I want to explain what we just answered. When you say it's wandering about the roads, down Aveda, is wandering through the vineyards, If you're talking about the property, then it's like you're causing damage. But you infer wandering about, grazing amongst the vines. Is Baved good for you focus on the animal itself. What's the difference? When the animal runs, Ben Akrami mask, it gets all scratched up and cut up. The Roy Ben Akrami, but wandering about, Loy mask doesn't get cut up. Says the Gemara, the Roy Ben Hakrami. Nihi, the Loy mask doesn't get cut up. Oh, but then there's always kaka. How can you allow that to happen? It's still ruining the vineyards. So my answer is, the vineyard belongs to a guy, so we don't really care. There's no mitzvah, shabbos, or anything. We don't really care. We only focus on the animal. What do you mean? If the guy finds this animal there ruining its crop, he'll kill the animal. So there's a mitzvah to save the animal as well. Maybe he'll kill the guy, they kill the animal. Says the Gemara, "Ba'asra de masri v'hada kati." Talking about a place, a region, they don't just kill animals wantonly. They first warn the owner, and therefore we're not worried. The animal's not in danger. So how do you know? B'dilma asra be. Maybe they already warned the owner. Says the Gemara, "He asked me if they warned the owner. The law is dahurbe. The owner still did not take care of it properly. Then vaday aveda medasi. Surely it's an aveda medas. It's his fault." So we are up to the Gemara now, on Lamed Aleph, Amad Aleph, the two dots, about, I don't know, 13 lines from the bottom of the page. Says the Gemara here, the Mishnah tells us, if you return the lost item and the item gets lost a second time, you have to return it again. There's no limit to how many times you have a mitzvah, Shabbos, Aveda, even if it's the very same item. Because it says, Hashav Teshivim. So we say, because the same word is written twice, so it teaches you that no matter how many times the person lost this item, every time you have a mitzvah of returning it. So the Gemara, from the rest of the Gemara, is going to talk about other examples where you have two words. The Torah repeats itself. What is the Torah trying to teach us? So let's start here. Hechazira, baruch hechazira, baruch the animal, you turned it, fled, turned, fled. This rabbi said to Rabbi, Ema, how do you know? How is the Mishnah know it means even 100 times you have to return it? Maybe it means only twice. Ema hashav is chada. Hashav means return it the first time, and chada is one time, and teshiv mitzrayzin, and then a second time. That's it. If the animal disappears the third time, you tell the owner, sorry, take care of your things. I'm not mechuyev to continue to bring it back to you. How do we know? Amalei, so Rabbi said, you misunderstood the Mishnah. The word hashav on its own, there's no cap to it. How many times should you return it to the owner? Hashav, as many times as necessary. So what is teshivim, the second word teshivim? To teach you another halacha altogether, and that's as follows. Hashav, afil kupam mimashma, even 100 times. Teshivim, to teach you where do you have to return the lost item. Any base, I would have thought you have to return to the house. To his garden, to the dilapidated house. Teshivim. Return it anywhere. You can return it to anywhere. I need a pasuk to tell me you can return it to the garden. Hey, chidami, tell me exactly what's going on here. If this garden is protected, there's a wall around it. Why can't you return it? I need a pasuk to tell me it's your garden. I need a layman. If it's not protected, then am I? And why taka can you return it? It'll disappear again. Says it's protected. But the chiddush here is, I do not have to notify the owner of this particular object that I returned it. Remember, we lived in Bava Kama that a ganef and a gazan stole something. You have to come back and report to the owner. And is you have to, if the owner knew about it, didn't know about it, you have to tell the owner, I just returned you the stolen item. Especially when it's an animal, because it got used to leaving the premises. So Lail the Minter, it was protected. How Kamashwan the late being does by. You don't have to notify the owner. Everything requires the knowledge of the owner. Chutz mahashavas aveda. So a ganef has to tell the owner, a gazlin, a shomer, if you're watching it, you got to go back. Chutz and tell them, chutz hashavas aveda. Why? Because it says teshivim. I don't care how many times you bring it back, you don't have to tell them. Says the Gemara. Said the Gemara. Shaleach teshalach by shluchakan. You shoo away the mother bird if you want the little babies. So it says shaleach teshalach. Why twice? Ema shaleach chada zimna teshalach. It says in the Mishnah there that even 100 times, every time the mother comes back, you shoo it away again. So the student asks the same question. Maybe shaleach means once, and teshalach means a second time, but a third time, that's enough. Amalei, no. Again, shaleach is afilu mei pamim. Shaleach is even 100 times, mashma. And teshalach ein li ela l'davar ashur. Teshalach is to teach you another halach altogether. That is, we would have thought, when do you have to shoo the mother away? When you want to, let's say, eat the baby chickens, you have to shoot them away. Say baby birds. But if you want it for a mitzvah, because by a mitzvah you take two birds and one you kill, and with the blood, the other one you take the live bird and you dip it into the blood, and then you sprinkle it, and then you send away the bird. If you want to use the bird for that, maybe if the mitzvah overrides this shaluch hakan, you don't have to send the mother away. Even for a mitzvah, in all instances. Next question. It says you have to reprimand. If you see someone doing an avera, reprimand, you should reprimand. And more Erichan says, I feel a even 100 times. So you ask the same question. Is once, And Toichiach is traded, it is twice. Amalei Hoichiach, the word Hoichiach is a filkut pamimashma. But Toichiach, what does that teach you? Ainly Ella Harab Talmud. The onus is on the rabbi to admonish his student or a student that behaving. Talmud the Rabbanai, a student to their teacher. How do you know that a student to the teacher also, if they see the teacher misbehaving, they should reprimand the teacher? I don't care who it is. Like we're having Merek Brachas in Chaf. The Makam Chil Hashem Ein Cholkin Kavod L'Rab. You don't in any way show any cover to Rab if he's not behaving the way he's supposed to behave. And the Gemara in Erchin actually says, Hoichiach is you moichiach once. What happens if the person refuses to accept your reprimand? Then toichiach afil mei pamim. So it seems that Gemara there learns very different than our Gemara here, and it seems that the Rambam actually learns that two Gemaras are arguing, because the Rambam in Hilchas Deis, when he talks about all these things, does not bring down the din that a student should reprimand their teacher. So that means that Rambam, because according to Gemara in Erchin, we use the word toichiach to tell you even 100 times. Nothing to do with a student reprimanding their teacher. So it must be that's how the Rambam learns, and therefore the Rambam says in Hilchos Talmud Torah, the Rambam does say you can reprimand your teacher, but it seems it's only midrabanan, not from the pasuk hoichiach toichiach. Others want to say there's a difference between the two Gemaras. There's no contradiction. The Gemara there is talking about when the person refuses to accept, your reprimands. So then you continue over and over again. And you learn from the word toichiach. Our Gemara is talking about he accepted the reprimand, but then this person forgot and behaved the same way again. In this case, we would have thought maybe one reprimand is. In that case, Hoichiach tells you even 100 reprimands because the person is ready to accept. Over there, talking about the person did not want to accept. Therefore, we need the other pasuk Hoichiach to tell you off. Anyway, the Gemara continues. Okay, now we have the mitzvah of if you see the let's say the donkey of your enemy lying there sprawled underneath underneath this heavy burden, it says there that what Ozav Tazav Ima, you have to assist, you have to help and take off the bundles. That's called prika. Then another pasuk in Parashat Yisrael it says that if you shouldn't see the donkey of your brother or the cow Neiflim Baderech fell on the road. In other words, take it literally, the animal's on the road with its bundle, and you need to lift the animal. That's called te'ina. And then Hakim Takim Ima, you should help out. So everything is a double talk. Ozav Tazav when it comes to Prika, and Hakim Takim when it comes to te'ina. What's going on here? What do we learn from that? It says the Gemara, Ozav Tazav Ima, all we know is if the owner is sitting there. If the owner is not there, how do we know? Now, what exactly are we talking about? If the owner is not there, then that's like any other aveda, lost object, which is you don't know who the owner is. You got to try to find the owner. You got to assist. So because of the mitzvah Shabbos aveda, you have to lift the animal or take the bundle off. So what does it mean? Ozav tazimim. It means the owner is there, but the owner is not capable of helping out. So since the owner is there, but not capable of helping out, the pasuk says, Ozav tazav, that you need to do it yourself. Yeah, ain't the other Baalim. Ain't Baalim and I know the Baalim. What do you mean not there? The Baalim is there, but they're not capable of helping. Tamalaymer Ozav tazav comes to tell you that what Ozav tazav, you should help. Mikol makom, in all instances, if the owner is there but can't help, then you should do it yourself. Then it talks about the animal fell down to the ground. You should lift the animal. Again, a double talk. Imai with the person, any about the owner is there. The owner is not there. The owner is not there means the owner is there, but cannot help. How do you know? You should help the animal up regardless. So along with the Mr. Prikal and Mr. Tina, why does the Torah have to give us the same principle when it comes to removing the bundles from the donkey and when it comes to loading the animal? What's the difference? The Torah only told us that it's a mitzvah to assist the donkey that cannot bear the weight, remove all the bundles. How many ever thought, you know why? And that's going to be tomorrow's discussion in the Gemara. The idea that an animal is in pain and we need to to ameliorate that pain or mitigate that pain. Is that from the Torah or is that only from the Rabban? But even if it's Mahat Torah, I come first. So you're allowed to kill an animal, for example, for its hide. Even Tzabal Chaim is Matera, because if it benefits me, we come first. Anyway, number one, the Ikach kids, plus the animal is getting weaker and weaker. So I would have thought that when do I have a mitzvah to remove the bundles from the animals? We're removing it because it's Tzabal Chaim, there's a financial loss. Avaltina, but to lift, the animal's lying on the floor, it's not in pain. And nor is there any financial loss over here because the animal's not getting any weaker. Maybe I'm alive. Maybe I don't have to. Or if I do, you have to pay me for it. If the Torah only told us about lifting, lifting I get paid for. Because there's no tabal chayim, you want me to lift? Fine, but pay me. It's also hard work. But when it comes to this man, because of the mitzvah of tabal chayim, the bechinam, I have to do it gratis. Aim loy. Then maybe then I don't have to do it. That's why you need both psukim. Says Reb Shimon claims that even to you have no right to ask for any money. It's a mitzvah. So why do you both psukim? Reb Shimon, because it's not so clear in the pasuk. The pasuk says you found the donkey lying on the ground. There's two ways of learning. We learned that the donkey's on the ground. The bundles are on the ground, so it's just a question of lifting. Reb Shimon learns the donkey's on the ground, but the bundles are sitting on top of the donkey. So therefore, it's a question of removing those bundles. So they're both talking about prika. So okay. So that's why according to Reb Shimon, it's not clear in the pasuk. If the pasuk would only said one, I would automatically assume we're talking about removing the load, not loading the animal. That's why you have to have two psukim. Says the Gemara, but the principle between prikatina and hashavas aveda is exactly the same. If somebody's about to incur a loss and you can help them out, you have to help them out. So why does the Torah have to talk about prikatina and hashavas aveda? If you tell hashavas aveda, we'll already know the rest. For example, the Gemara asks, "Lama the michtav hani tarti, v'lama the michtav aveda." The Gemara explains why we need them all. If you only knew these two, prikatina, mishum the tzara, the murrays, the first of all, the owner is in pain. The owner feels terrible. Why? Because he can't help, he can't remove, he can't load, and he feels that he's in tzar. He can't help out his animal. Number one, and also tzar is an animal's in pain. Because the animal's in pain, therefore, okay, so I have to help out. When it comes to lost object, the side of the murray, so you're right, the owner is in pain because you lost an object. Or beside the lesser, the object itself doesn't know that it's lost, and therefore there's no tsar to the object. Aim alone. Maybe in this case, I don't have to help out. The Yashman Aveda, you know why the lesser the owner has no idea where it is, so I have a mitzvah to return it to the owner. Avalhani Tarti, but these two, the Isalamar about it, the owner, remember the owner is there, but the owner is infirmed or can't, whatever, you can't help. So I would have thought I don't have to do anything. Let the owner hire somebody. You're there, you see what's going on. Hire somebody to do it for you. Therefore, we need the Torah says no. There's a mitzvah to help out. Says the Gemara, Mois Yumas Hamake. So it says in the pasuk there that if you kill somebody, you have to be killed in his place. And it says over here again, it says Mois Yumas, double talk. And the punishment is 4 different kinds of punishment. The punishment is with a saif, with the sword. But why did the Torah say mois yumas? Capital punishment. The Torah says you get saif, you get cheret. How do I know in a situation where you cannot use that method? For example, the guy fled and is sitting on a boat crossing the river, and the only way you can get to him is by shooting an arrow and you'll kill him. So how do I know I can use another method? That's what it says, double. You can kill him in any way that you can. If you cannot use a normal method, then use this other method. Hakesaka. Oh, just remember the word to say, very nice word. Hakesaka. The Iran and the Dachas and the majority of the people are worshiping idols. The din is that they get killed with a cherub, and you take all their assets and all the belongings, you take all the assets and all the belongings, and you put it in the middle of the city, in the middle of the town square, and you burn them up. You kindle a fire. It says hakesaka, again, double talk. Ainly yell about koaksubehen, you only know about the punishment that they deserve. If you cannot give them the punishment that they deserve. And how do you know that you can hit them any other way you want? Any way possible. You know that 3 times a year that we eat kreplach. We eat kreplach. You're probably wondering, what does kreplach have to do with anything here? We eat kreplach Erev Yom Kippur. we eat kreplach on Purim, and we eat kreplach on Hoshana Rabbah. And the word is, every time we are hitting something, we eat kreplach. So Erev Yom Kippur, we give malchus, but after mincha, we give malchus to each other. So we're hitting, or al-chet, maybe you're hitting your heart. Purim, we hit Haman. And Hoshana Rabbah, we take the Hoshanas and we hit them on the ground. Hake Saka. So they say it's an acronym, and it goes as follows. Hake is, Hey is Haman, that's Purim. Kof is Kippur, that's Yom Kippur. And the Hey is Hoshana, that's Hoshana Rabbah. Is Saka. Saka is Toichel Kreplach Harbe. You're a lot of Kreplach. Okay, as we move on. Hoshev Toshev. It says that if you took a pledge from a borrower, you took security, and the borrower was very poor, you need to return it to that borrower at night. For example, if it's the borrowed pajamas or blanket, every night you got to return it. And it says in the pasuk, "L'choti tzedakah," is considered in fact as tzedakah. So it says over here, Hoshev Toshev, we should return this pledge when the sun rises, or when the sun sets. You give the person so this person can sleep with whatever, linen and so on. So why again Hashev Toshev? Because ain't the Ella Shemash Kanevish's Bezin came the due date, they couldn't pay, so the Bezin said, you know what, you can go and seize whatever you want as a mashkin collateral. But Mashkana Shalei Bezin, you did it on your own. Menayin, how do I know there's still a mitzvah every night to return to that person if that person is needy? Tamaloimer Hashev Toshev. I don't care how you got it. In all instances, you got to return it. Then we have another pasuk, similar idea. You took a pledge, but here it says im chavel tarbel. If you take as a security the dress of a friend, until the sun rises, you give it back to him in the day. You only got a bezin. You took your seeds without permission. How do you know you have to return it? You have to give it back to security. Now the Gemara asks a simple question. Why do you need two psukim? The same idea. Says the Gemara, because chadliksus yom. One is talking about a garment of the day. So at night you have to give it back. And the chadliksus laila. And the other one is talking about, let's say, linen. So every night you got to return it. Now it comes to tzedakah. Pasoyach tiftach. You should open your hand. Why does it give again? Why repeat itself? So we say, I feel a mea pamim, right? But we're saying now that the first word pasoyach is 100 times. So the second word tiftach is to include another halacha. What is that? Only for the poor in your own city. I know you have a mitzvah obligation to give tzedakah even to foreigners. The father used to say it's an interesting way of expressing it. Pasoyach tiftach, open your hand. Just say, give it. What's opening your hand? And then we're saying over here is that there's criteria. Your family comes first, and your locals. There's also the Aniyah Yisrael that come high up in the ladder and so on. Because when you open your hand, when your hand is closed, all your fingers are the same. But when your hand is open, every finger is a different size. Because when it gives tzedakah, you actually have to make the dinim regarding tzedakah, that this you give more, this you give less, this you give first to these people you give second. Therefore, the Torah says, "Pasoyach tiftach ezilecha." When you give tzedakah, your hand should be open so that you can know the dinim and know when to give more, when to give, not to give as much, who to give first to, and who to give second to. Nosen titen. It says, give, you should give. Again, talking about tzedakah. Ainly elamatan meruba, a large amount. Matanim, what's a small amount? Nosen titen mekom makom. What exactly does it mean? Big machlek is impossible. So some say as follows. In fact, most say as follows. I would have thought, when is there a mitzvah of tzedakah if I can give something significant? If I can give a significant amount that the poor person walks away, they can buy some meals or whatever it is, then I have a mitzvah of tzedakah. But if I cannot give a significant amount, only a matanim uetis, then maybe there's no mitzvah of tzedakah. That's what we would have thought. So it says, nosan titin mikol makom. So someone approved from this Rashi that there's a mitzvah, an obligation, that even a poor person who lives off, let's say, the largesse of the community has a mitzvah of giving their own tzedakah. Others say we're not talking about such an impoverished person. We're talking about somebody who can support themselves, but they're very meager. And we would have thought that such a person maybe shouldn't give tzedakah, let them take care of themselves. They still have to give something, a modicum of money, something. But there's another pshat, and the pshat is like this. Now, we would have thought that only if the poor person is needy, that the poor person needs a lot of money, then there's a mitzvah tzedakah to help that person out. But if the poor person just needs a little bit of money, which means they could survive, they just want a bit more, we would have thought that there's no mitzvah tzedakah in such a case. Kamashlan, that there is. Then we continue. You have to give severance pay. It talks about a slave. You have to give severance pay. And it says, Hanek Tanik. It says you should give them severance pay and give them, reward them for all the hard work that they did for you. Says the Gemara, Ein the Elosh is Baruch Habayit Beglala. Why does it say the second word Tanik? Because I would have thought the only time that you have to actually give severance pay is if this person was a good worker and was productive and contributed. But Loin is Baruch Habayit Beglala. Let's say the person didn't really contribute. Menayin, how do you know you still have to give severance pay? Hanek Tanik. The actual word Tanik Mekomach. In all instances, you have to give. Or Rabbi Elazar ben Azai, but Rabbi Elazar ben Azai who believes Nizbarech Habayit Beglala, because the pasuk says, because this person, bless your house. So if we take it literally, if this person was beneficial and contributed to the household, manikale, you give a severance pay. Later, Baruch Habayit Beglala, if it didn't, then ain't manikin. So Tanik Lamli, what do they do with the extra word Tanik according to that view? The Torah sometimes repeats itself because that's how people talk. Now, Tais is already here. Another Shem say, what's going on there? So it means he doesn't believe in anything we learned till now, where we made a whole drush out of the repetition of the word when he says Dibra Torah Shmin. So bottom line Tais says is we always learn drushes, but where the drasha you want to learn is exactly opposite of what the pasuk seems to be saying. He says, dismisses it and says, let's say the Torah is just talking because that's how people speak. You want to darshan that even though he didn't contribute to the household, this person should be rewarded. Yet the pasuk clearly says the reason why you're rewarding this person is because this person contributed to the household. So you want the drasha to usurp what the pasuk says. That, he says, can't be. Same thing says, now here's an extraordinary halacha which is actually very difficult to understand. And the halacha, according to many, is not like this. But this goes as follows. The Torah says, Havet Havitena, you shall lend this person money, a person who's destitute, you shall lend them money. Now look, so the Gemara says as follows. We have this in Ksubis. Ainli ela she'ainli. A poor person, destitute, they have no money. So why are you lending them money? Give them charity. Because this person doesn't want to live off the largesse, has enough pride and self-dignity, doesn't want that. So the Torah says, you know what? Be a mensch. Let's find this following ruse. 10 like derech. Give this person a loan. Give the person a loan. But what about yeshle? The person has plenty of money, but he's so frugal that einu reitzel his partners. He refuses to use this person's own money to support themselves. Menayin, how do you know that you have a mitzvah to lend this person money so that the person can live? This person does not want to get tzedakah. In other words, if this person wanted to get tzedakah, you would give him, even though this person has the means to support themselves, but they are Spartan and they don't want to use the money. You should give them tzedakah, which is amazing. And if they don't want tzedakah, lend them the money. In all cases, very difficult to understand why in the world would there be mitzvah tzedakah to somebody who doesn't need it. They're just stingy. Rav Shimon says, the Amar, he says, Yesh lo, if a person has the means to support themselves, but they don't want to, then ein nizkakin lo, you do not help them at all. So according to that person, according to Rav Shimon, what do you do the second word, Tavitenu? Again, the Torah does double talk because that's how people speak. It says in the Mishnah, if this person had a good job, got good pay, and now the person is not going to work, spend time to recover your item, and he wants his money back. He turns to the owner of the Aveda, it cost me $100 of time, give me $100. You can't do that. You can't say to the owner, 10 lisela, I want you to reimburse me whatever my wages are. The owner of the object does have to give this person some kind of a compensation, as if this person was unemployed. You tell somebody has a job. If you did nothing, how much money would you be happy to accept for that? You only get $100 an hour. For $10 an hour, you do nothing. You're happy? And that's what we give this person. So I don't understand. This person is not doing nothing. The person is working right now, but instead of doing his whatever his normal job is, the person is doing is finding the object and finding the owner. So why is this person getting paid like a poil bottle, like an unemployed person? Says Gemara. Tana, no, just called Kipoil Bottle. My Kipoil Bottle. Why like an unemployed person? I'm going to buy. It doesn't mean unemployed. Kipoil Bottle shall oisa malacha the bottom. That's a person doing a highly skilled job, but it's very demanding, and and it's very difficult. So we tell the person, you get $100 an hour. It's a very difficult job. If you had an easier job, but would you accept it for $50 an hour, far less strenuous, and so on. And that's what we pay. Not like an unemployed, but unemployed from this job, but rather a lesser job. Anyway, then it says, but the guy wants to get paid. Then im yesham bezin mastim efreim. There's a bezin standing around. Turns to the bezin and says, I want to get fully compensated for. You're a bezin. You rule that I'm entitled to compensation. And if the bezin rules that way, then the owner of the object needs to pay this guy the full compensation. And then the Gemara said, but if there's no bezin there, then don't pick up the object because it'll cause this person, the owner, a loss. Now, the Gemara tells a story. The Isa and Rab Safra, there were two partners in business. Now, there's two partners in business, either partner has the right to walk away whenever they want. And they split all the assets. If it's money, it's pretty straightforward. You just divide the money equally and that's it. But if it's assets, then you have to assess the value of the assets. So what happened was Isa and Rab Safra, Isa and Safra both had a business. They were both partners. Also, Rab Safra decided he doesn't want to be a partner of Isa anymore. Polaglay, he divided all the assets below daite de Isa without Isa's knowledge, but ba'ape beitre, he had two people standing there and they were witnesses to watch how we assessed everything correctly and divided it properly. Also, came from Rabbi Huna said, the only way you could have done that is if you did it in front of a bezin. Zil aisi tlosa the pagmai. Where's the bezin? Bring me the bezin that saw you divide it equally, correctly. Orinami trei migoit tlosa. Bring me at least two of the dayonim out of the three. Orinami trei sadi the pagmai tlosa. Bring me two witnesses that saw this din Torah happening or this bezin happening. Amalek Safra said to him, who told you need a bezin? What's wrong with having two witnesses that saw that I did the correct thing? Who said you need a bezin? Amalei the Tanah, we just learned in the Mishnah. It said, Im yesham bezin, if there was a bezin, masna b'fneim. You make a Tanai before them. Ain't sham bezin. If there's no bezin, b'fnei mi yasna, you have no bezin in front of who you can go ahead and make a Tanai, then shaloi kaidim. Then you take care of your own goods, your own needs, and don't worry about the Aveda. We don't want you to lose money as a result of the Aveda. So he says, clearly, you need a bezin. Amalei, Rav Safra said to him, me dummy, what are you comparing? Hasam the mapik memoina mahai and moisiv lahai. Over there in Al Mishnah, I'm picking up your object and I want you to pay me. So if I want to force you to pay me, we need a bezin for that. I'm taking money away from person A to bring it to person B. I will hook over here. The day shokers, two partners, each one owns 50%. So this partner is taking their 50%. Gili milsa ba'almahu. It's only a gili milsa that betray sagle. Two is enough. Tate, I'll prove it to you. It's now, we learned we learned elsewhere that a widow who's living off the assets of her husband, she can take the assets, even though it belongs to the heirs, and sell it. You don't even need a bezin. So we see clearly from here, because the assets sort of belong to her, she can sell it without a bezin. You don't need a bezin. Abaye said, what are you talking about? The lav mi itma, didn't we learn? Almana does not require a bezin of experts. You still need a bezin. The fact you're taking money away from the others, you need a bezin. So in your case too, of two partners, and one of them wants to divide the assets and to assess it, you need a proper bezin or a bezin to be there to witness it. Okay, good luck, everybody. Good luck.